Hey, my name's Alex. My business partner and I, Caleb, own a little under 700 storage units right now across 5 facilities. And this is what we like about the basic principle of the self-storage business. So in this video, we're going to talk about two main topics on why we like the self-storage business, which is the fact that it's an active business, but it also combines the benefits of holding long-term real estate. And also stay to the end because I'm going to talk about a couple of the big negatives of the self-storage business as well. So what do I mean by active business? This is one of the pieces to the self-storage industry that we really like. And what I mean by active business is you can almost think of it like a hotel, right? If you have a hotel here, and let's say you own this hotel and there's 5 other ones right around you. Your job is to make sure that whatever customers are looking for a hotel in that general area, that they're seeking out and they are staying at your hotel for that particular night. And there's a million ways that you can go about this and marketing campaigns and all of that. We like to refer to this as levers to pull, right? So in self-storage, there's a lot of levers that you can pull in order to drive occupancies, increase monthly rate averages, or even decrease operational expenses. There's a lot of levers that you can pull and you can really get creative with this. So when it comes to driving your occupancy, right? It's not just sticking a sign out in the yard and saying, well, I hope somebody rents my unit. You can do all kinds of different marketing campaigns. You could partner up with local realtors. You could partner up with local property managers. There's an endless amount of opportunity, or again, levers to pull on how you can really drive the occupancy of your self-storage facility. Sometimes I think about it like a plumbing business or an HVAC business, to where, if they see that, hey, our next month calendar is getting kind of light, we don't have a lot of appointments booked up, we need to really drive and run a well-executed marketing campaign in order to book up those calendars, then you can do the same thing in self-storage, right? If we see that we've got units coming available that aren't leasing up, there's a lot of, again, levers to pull that we can do to drive those occupancies. When we're talking about levers to pull to drive rental rates, that might look something like bringing in an insurance company, partnering up with them to where you can sell your customers an insurance policy. You're adding extra value to them, and you're also able to benefit by cost splitting or profit sharing some of those insurance premiums. We do one thing, we rent our locks out, right? So if a customer doesn't want to have to go buy a lock from Walmart or something like that, they can rent our lock, and thus that increases the monthly rate average of that particular unit that we're renting out to them. Other self-storage facilities I know bring in U-Haul services, sell packing supplies, rent pallets. Again, there's a lot of different levers that you can pull to really drive your occupancy. And one of the things about that we like about this active side of the business is that, our January revenue can look a lot different than our February, than our March, than our April. We can really produce a lot of growth in a short period of time, where I compare that to when we owned apartments, and it was pretty much like, well, this lease isn't up for another 6 months. There's really not much that we can do there to adjust that income of that particular unit until that lease is up, right? And then, we were dealing with smaller total number of units as well, right? And so when, let's say, we've got a 20 unit apartment building and one of those units comes available, and we increase the rate just a little bit and then it rents out right away. It's like, well, what if that could have gone just a little bit more? But when you're dealing with a couple hundred storage units and you've got one that comes available, increase the rate a little bit, boom, it goes. Okay, that gives you your kind of next baseline. Then you can do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And so you've got a lot more opportunity to really hone in and see, okay, what's that top of the market for my rent to be? So those are some of the things that self-storage, it's an active business, and that's why we really like it. Now, for those long-term real estate benefits that we get in the self-storage business and what we really like about the self-storage business, the main ones are really depreciation, your long-term appreciation of your real estate, and also taking into consideration the loan pay down of the real estate. So these are basic benefits of real estate that is in every YouTube video out there that's talking about buying rental properties. But the self-storage business, to me, it is interesting because to me, it's one of the only industries that combines the active characteristics of a business with those multiple levers to pull and that ability to really get in there and adjust revenue quickly, while also retaining the long-term tax benefits and long-term overall benefits that rental properties offer, right? So when we think in terms of depreciation, right? When we're taking into account the cash flow that a property is making for us, and if we look at doing, regular depreciation, obviously, plus if we needed to, we could do an accelerated depreciation on a property as well. We can most of the time get pretty close to wiping out that active income, that cash flow on that property, right? Where if I compare that to if we owned a plumbing business, we're probably going to be making more cash flow, but we're going to have to be paying tax on that all right away, right? There's not really going to be a great way to more or less defer that, unless obviously we own the real estate of the plumbing warehouses and all that stuff, right? But again, with the self-storage, if you're bringing in cash flow, a lot of times, you can talk to your accountant about it, but we can get pretty good as far as getting that to get pretty close to zero when we take into account our depreciation. Now, it's important to remember that it's not like we're avoiding paying the tax, it's just deferring paying the tax. And it's gonna have to be a conversation that comes whenever we sell the property, but it is nice the fact that we can keep that cash flow on hand, and it helps us continue to build and scale the business while we need it, especially in these startup years. The other really good thing is that long-term appreciation. So we buy the right property, and as more gas stations and grocery stores and neighborhoods get built around it, that real estate in general is just going up in value. All at the same point in time of, you hear a lot of people say, just buy rental houses and set them up, and even if they don't cash flow, in 20 years they'll be paid off and you've made money, right? And that's because your tenant was in there paying your loan that entire time, right? So with self-storage, you still get that, every year my property value is more than likely going up, and every year that debt principal balance is going down. And so you're widening this equity gap every single year. And that's a long-term benefit that we see with self-storage. And obviously we really like that. All right, so as promised, let's talk about some negatives of the self-storage industry that you need to be aware of before jumping into this business. And the first goes right against my first point that I liked about the industry, and that's the fact that it is an active business. What I mean by that is that you're going to be getting a lot of phone calls, right? You're going to be getting a lot of customer issues and challenges, and just you have more overall customers in self-storage than you do compared to like apartments or warehousing. And so there's just going to be more customer service things that need to be taken into account for. So maybe you can run an apartment building without having to have a call center or somebody man your phones for you. But when you start to scale up in self-storage, you're quickly going to find that you really need somebody answering those phones, at least during typical business hours, making sure that you're bringing in new customers and making sure that your current customers are being taken care of. That was probably one of the most surprising things for me. I know when we were getting into this industry, there was a point in time where I literally thought, well, I wonder if we can just do this all by QR codes and website and literally just never post a phone number anywhere. I don't think that would work very well at all, and I think you would end up having some very unhappy customers if you did it that way. So again, be prepared for just the volume of phone calls that you're going to have to be answering. Again, that's all part of that active business mentality and just the nature of the self-storage industry. Another thing that you want to be thinking about is that, again, it's nice the fact that all the leases are month to month. It gives you flexibility to move those rates around, but also it gives your customers flexibility to move out. So there's been some months where we said, holy smokes, we did not expect this many move outs, right? Vice versa to that, there's been months where we said, holy smokes, we didn't expect this many move-ins. But just know that your revenue can fluctuate, and sometimes that means going down because the fact that your leases are all set up on month to month and your customers have the flexibility to move out whenever they choose to. You can more or less try to defend against this a little bit by putting different structures in place that says 3 months minimum or things like that. But we don't do that. We offer our customers flexibility really to entice them to pull the trigger and rent with us. The other big negative that I'm going to talk about with self-storage, and it is a watch out, you need to be very, very careful with this, is maybe you buy a facility and for the first couple years, you're the only major player in town. That's great. But maybe somebody made a lot of money in that area and they said, well, I've always wanted to buy and own storage units, I'm going to build a facility right next to this other guy that's in town. So the major negative that I want to hit on here is you can all of a sudden have a sudden increase in supply, and that is not a good thing in the self-storage industry. So just like a lot of other industries, the biggest downfall to self-storage is self-storage. So you could take a town that has a really, really good market and you buy a facility and you're doing hot, you're doing really good, you're driving rates, but then somebody starts a development project and they develop it quickly, and in a year's time, they've got a facility that's nicer than yours right next door. Maybe they structure their debt different and they're renting units for 75% of the cost of your units. That's a big, big problem and something that you really need to be aware of. So one of the things that we would take into consideration as well, whenever we're looking at a facility, analyze and see, okay, could somebody build another facility within a 3-mile radius of me right now? How quickly could they do it? What would that do to my customer demand? Am I still going to be able to hit these numbers that I'm expecting? So some negatives of the self-storage industry. Overall, we really, really like the self-storage business, and we love the fact that it combines an active business and the long-term benefits of real estate, but there are some negatives to watch out there. So if you're a self-storage owner, or if you're an apartment owner, or if you're a service-based business owner, anything like that, please let me know in some comments what you think about the self-storage business, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. I would love to know your thoughts.